Hey, it's us.
How's it going, everybody? Let's get real quick into this. First of all, thanks for coming and hanging out with us today. We appreciate it. Obviously, we got a lot to talk about. We have everything from an upcoming patch to talk about. We have new content to talk about. We have some questions to get to. We will get to the questions toward the end of the stream. We'll make sure that we pull some questions from chat and try and see what we can get answered. We also know we have a bunch of questions that our community team has kind of sourced over the, the coming across over the channels and all of that. And we're going to make sure that we answer some of those as well. But we've got a ton to cover. So without further ado, I'm Matt. I'm your brand strategy lead here at Gun. I'm joined by my buddy.
Hey, it's me. I'm Wes Keltner. I get snacks for people. And I want to give a giant shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Robert Fox, on the ones and twos, baby. Give it up.
There he is.
There he is. Good to see you again. Hope you're well, buddy.
It's all good. It's all good.
Speaking of well, you're not feeling the best.
I am sick, so I'm gross, and I apologize. And if I cough a whole bunch and sniffle, I'm sorry, but this felt like we had to get this done and get this out of the way, and so I wanted to make sure,
No post-stream snuggling. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, no hugs on the couch.
No.
Just me and my buddy Nugs over here.
There you go.
But I have paper notes because, I'm tired.
Because you're a boomer?
Yeah, exactly, because I'm old. No, I have paper notes because I'm tired of having my face in a laptop when we do these things. So
Right.
And I felt like we could do like a Conan thing here. So first up, let's talk about the changes coming to the game. Obviously, this isn't every change coming to the game. We have over 150 fixes coming in our next patch. And you know what? To kind of quiet some what I'm sure is already happening in chat right now, this patch we're targeting February 6th for this patch.
Yeah.
Now, before we talk about the details of it, let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, these patches, these are bigger patches. It's over 150 fixes. And
150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, this can also slide, and when I say slide, I mean a day or two front and back.
Right, right.
So when we say we're targeting February 6th, that means it could be February, well, I guess February 6th is a Tuesday, so it could be February 5th, could be February 7th.
Yeah.
We're not talking about sliding like a month, right?
Right.
But it's important to note, we don't have this pinned down yet. This still has to go through cert, but that's what we're targeting. That's what we're on track for, and we're pretty confident in it. So with that being said, let's talk about the first thing that I think everybody's going to want to talk about. Well, actually, I'm saving the best for last here. We're going to talk about Danny toward the end of the show, end of the stream.
Yeah, I already see chat now is blowing up. Probably, I don't see chat, but I guarantee it's all right now going nerf, nerf, nerf. It's like we know we'll get to that.
And the situation with Danny is there's a lot to that, so we're going to save that for the end of this segment. But let's talk about grappling, right? Close encounters. You get into a close encounter with a family member. If you're playing as a victim, you get into a close encounter with a family member. Another family member walks up, and all they have to do is strike you once, and it goes straight into an execution.
Yeah, not cool.
It's the kind of thing that, has become kind of like part of the unofficial way to play. People see that as, well, if I see them in a close encounter, I just got to walk up and take a shot. So in this patch, we are changing it where it'll deal chip damage. So what that means is if a family member attacks you while you're in a close encounter with another family member, it will take damage away from your health. Keep in mind, if your health is low enough for you to go into that execution, it will still trigger the execution. It can still happen. But it will take chip damage if you're healed up and healthy and you're just in that close encounter. So, gone will be you're winning the close encounter and you're in the process of winning it, and they, come up and execute you and it's over.
Right.
I felt like that was pretty important.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Door trapping. What does that mean? Well, you guys, in your infinite trollery have been locking poor Leatherface in rooms.
Yeah.
And using the barge mechanic to prevent him from cutting the doors down. In this patch, we made a change where now Leatherface can initiate door destruction, and latching and things like that can be done while barging is technically happening. You're locked up in that animation to start barging. So Leatherface can just cut the door down now. So that's done and away with. I felt like that was an important one to get out of the way here quick because, again, nobody likes being trapped in the closet when trying to play Leatherface. So let's talk next about. Let's stick on our buddy Leatherface.
Okay.
Instant start. This was one that Wes brought up. You had some feelings on instant start, how it existed prior to this, if you wanted to.
Are we hearing from the community too that this is?
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear their take on like what you've read or what you've heard, that how they are feeling about what it used to be, or maybe some of the demands of like, I wish it did this instead.
Yeah.
And then I'll also kind of go into a little bit about.
Well, the main thing with instant start, the reason this line item ended up in here, from the community, and in my experience, seeing what I see and what the community team pulls for us, instant start didn't really feel all that like it moved the needle enough.
Yeah.
Because it's still not instant, right? There's still like a.
I mean, that was my number one beef with it. Is we're calling it instant start, yet it didn't feel instant. There was still a state change, and then the full animation plays out of him getting it started. And it felt like, to me, it was negating what that mechanic can do if you're trying to be sort of a stealth Leatherface. If you want to run chainsaw off and sneak up on people, then you should be able to hit insta start, and it fires the chainsaw pretty damn quickly. So the way that it got implemented wasn't what I thought, didn't support the gameplay mechanic of being a stealthy Leatherface.
Well, now when you hit instant start, he'll pull that ripcord. That chainsaw starts. There used to be this kind of like animation where he goes and then back into ready to go. All of that has been trimmed back, and it's not like there's still an animation that happens, right? You still have to pull a cord. You have to and then take off. Yeah. But we've trimmed that way back, and we think the community is going to be pretty happy about that.
Oh yeah, you should start seeing a lot of playing us like a stealth Leatherface as, I guess, more of an option or a sort of a meta around that type of style of playing Leatherface. I think it supports that, and I think it also, what it generates is for the player base to have the tool set to create jump scares instead of us as developers trying to shoehorn in jump scares which feel cheap and it never really plays out well. It feels more impactful if it's like, let the player do the jump scare, and you get that if you're a stealth Leatherface and you get a true insta start. Like, that would feel much more impactful.
Yeah. So on the topic of Leatherface doing things more quickly, we also we've shaved close, just shy of 2 seconds off of the time it takes Leatherface to destroy a barricade in the basement.
Yeah.
I know this one's a big deal. A lot of people talk about it. It feels like it slows him down so much to destroy them that, a lot of Leatherfaces who kind of like know the basement better, for example, just keep moving. They're not really doing too much of that. They kind of get around them other means. So the Leatherface destruction of the barricade has been cut back significantly. Our in-house Leatherface expert, Raj, was kind of, we heard a lot of, whoa, oh, okay, when he was playing. So I thought that was pretty notable and pretty fun. Blood trails.
Oh, yeah.
The blood trails. Blood trails are a thing that, we wanted to, it's a tricky one to talk about because when we were seeing the comparison between the PC and console, if you guys remember a bit back, we had to mesh those up. They were out of whack. And there was actually the situation on PC was
I get the two. I don't remember which one was.
the situation with the bigger blood trail.
Yes,
I think it was
yes.
PC. It was duplicating the blood.
Yeah.
And so it was getting like really ridiculous. Or no, it might have been the other way around. It was on console. Anyway. It was console that had the bigger blood trail, I think. It was duplicating the amount of blood like relentlessly. So you just keep getting more and more, and the blood would get thicker and wider, and these huge blood tracks would be laid out. We kind of like the idea of that because, I mean, you're slashing at these people with razor blades and things. But also, it wouldn't be the correct way to do this where we just allowed essentially a bug to be a feature.
Right.
Where we're like, a duplicating decal that we don't know why it's duplicating. Can't just run with that as the plan.
Right.
So when we aligned the console and PC versions of the blood trails, we were kind of left feeling like, but it was kind of nice seeing more, not necessarily that extent more, but more. So we've added some blood to the blood trails. They're going to be bigger, but they're going to be somewhat in between where the duplicated, messed up version of them were and where the PC version was. So
It looks better, in my opinion.
yeah, and it also kind of makes certain perks kind of seem more believable. There's perks that deal like a little bit of extra damage and all of that, and there's things you can do to slow down bleeding and so on and so forth, and all of that becomes more important in my mind when the blood trail's thicker and easier to track. So hopefully that brings some emergent gameplay. But either way, it should also help families stay on those victim heels a bit. Let's see here. Let's get to minimal one. This one is minimal to talk about. There's not really a lot to say on it, but heavy impact to some players that are in the chat right now that I'm sure want to know. Brazilian Portuguese and Russian translations coming to the game. They're in this patch. They're coming in quality of life too. I know that's been asked about a lot, and I know that as soon as we say Brazilian Portuguese and Russian are coming, there's going to be, some other language that we've missed or something that we, people are looking for next. By all means, continue talking to us about that.
For sure.
Honestly, that's how this ended up.
That is. I mean, those are the two requests we got the most from the player base was, can you support these two languages? And so we hit those first. But yeah, that doesn't mean we're done supporting any other languages that are out there. A lot of that comes from what are people looking for, and we also are monitoring like the markets of what regions do we sell the game the most, or do we see the most active player base in, and those kind of things, which help us to move towards where should we localize next. So, but what trumps all of that is hearing directly from the players in those regions that need that support. Like we want to give it to you.
Absolutely. And also something like that just feels good to be able to have more inclusive. We could keep going, and I'm you can go down a rabbit hole of localization. Right?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's nice to just be able to say that's included. My pen just died.
Cool.
So that's it, guys. Thanks. Take care. See you guys next time. No, it just means I might read the same patch line twice. Poison Claws on Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
Poison Claws. Right now, there's a bug happening. Poison Claws is duplicating, stacking in a way that it shouldn't. And the Poison Claws numbers, I believe, were a little bit off as well. Poison Claws should be doing 2, 5, and 8 in the perk description, and it wasn't. Now it's definitely doing 2, 5, and 8, and it's not stacking anymore. So you're going to see a lot of.
Hey, you got a new pin.
It's raining pens. So you should see Poison Claws acting like as described, which is going to actually be a nerf to Poison Claws. I hate using that term, but there's a lot of people calling for it right now. But it's important to kind of delineate there.
Yeah.
We're not changing how Poison Claws operates. There's a bug existing with Poison Claws. We fixed the bug, and now it should be not stacking and doing 30 seconds and what it was. So
Yep.
the stack on Poison Claws was getting out of hand. So that's out of the way. There's a couple of perks I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's go.
There's a couple of perks I want to talk about. These perks are not the entirety of the perks in this patch. There's another pen coming in. When you say your pen died, people are anxious to be like, here's the pen. Hey, I appreciate you. These perks are not the only perks that we're touching in this patch. There's a couple more. These perks, though, I feel are some of the ones that are kind of meta and they're kind of high profile. And I think that people are going to be interested in these changes. And so we wanted to mention them here. We also... we have Muerto Times coming. At the end of this stream, we're going to be putting out the Muerto Times.
Excuse me.
Bless you. At the end of the stream, we have, I hope that I'm not getting you sick. We have a Muerto Times coming. We have patch notes coming as we get closer to the 6th. For those of you who might have missed the beginning of the stream, we're aiming to have this patch out on February 6th. That would mean patch notes would be coming either just the tail end of the week prior or that Monday prior. And that full patch notes will have the over 150 fixes that we're talking about. But these 4... Here, just to give you an idea, Choose Flight, Bomb Squad, Easily Tuckered Out, and Confusing Mechanic. These 4, I think, are going to be important.
Yeah, top bill for what we're hearing in the community right now, that this needs some love. This needs to be looked at. Someone please adjust this.
Let's work backward.
Let's do it.
Confusing Mechanic now works on the fuse and valve. Confusing Mechanic, for those of you who might not be...
Very helpful, actually.
Yeah, for those of you who might not know, Confusing Mechanic adds some time delay and difficulty to turning the device you've turned off back on, right? So it's kind of like Saboteur, but for family. It used to be working only on battery and generator, the car battery and the generator. And the idea being that in the beginning of the match, if somebody with Confusing Mechanic was the one who turned on the generator, it would be that much more difficult for the victims to turn it off. Well, we've had changed the start state for the battery and generator. So then Confusing Mechanic became so situational because it relied on the victims turning off one of those devices and then you being the one person to turn it back on, right? Yep. But Fuse and Valve have now become, obviously, as things go, the Fuse became a popular exit for a long, long time. The Valve definitely did. Now the Valve is seeing less usage, kind of more in the special escape kind of category that we originally had intended it to be. But you see the Valve and Fuse used more, and we felt like Confusing Mechanic made sense to apply to those as well. So if the family member has Confusing Mechanic on and tampers with the Fuse and Valve, it's going to create a more difficult restart for the victims. Well, that was a pretty cool change to it. Easily Tuckered Out. We dropped down the percentage values for this one. Easily Tuckered Out now is going to do 10, 25, and 40%. And basically, this is a stepping down of the power of Easily Tuckered Out. I know that this might not sound like as big of a swing as some people might have wanted us to take, but it's also the kind of thing that we can continue to keep an eye on and tweak and adjust.
Smart to do smaller incremental changes to things like this because you move that needle too far, you can break things and stuff starts to feel way out of balance. So it's smarter to do some sort of smaller adjustments, start moving that towards the space where we think it needs to be. And then obviously listen to you guys and you come back and say, feels good or still needs more love.
Yeah.
That's when we can get back in and start continuing to make those little tiny course corrections.
For sure. Choose Flight is a big change. Choose Flight, I would say, is an overhaul of the perk. Basically, Choose Flight was giving you run out of stamina, you get a charge that would drive you back up to 100% stamina, and you're getting 3 charges at level 3.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's 300% stamina on top of the 100% you start the game you have at the moment. Right. We are scrapping the charges on Choose Flight. We think it should be a moment of kind of adrenaline reboost kind of thing, right? Where you've stammed out but you need that little bit more. So we like the functionality of that, but the charge system was not really working here. So now level 1 Choose Flight, which means you've just got it unlocked and just equipped it, you get 1 replenishment of your stamina. So in other words, your stamina depletes, you'll get effectively one charge of stamina regained, but it'll only be 50% of your total stamina. Level 2 for Choose Flight is going to be 75% of your total stamina. And level 3 is 100% of your total stamina, but again, keep in mind, you can get it once per match.
Right.
So the idea with Choose Flight is you should be watching your stamina bar now and knowing well, I don't want to push myself to the point of empty and trigger that choose flight to kick in unless I really have to, because you're getting one of those 100% per match. Bomb Squad is the next big one that we changed, and this we did the opposite. We went the charge route with Bomb Squad. Previously, Bomb Squad would help you, first off, you can disable a hitchhiker trap with no bone scrap. You could do it faster. You could do it, all these different things. Now Bomb Squad will work off of charges again. The idea being, you equip Bomb Squad, you can, at level 1, disable 1 trap. At level 2, you can disable 2 traps. And at level 3, you can disable 3 traps. Now, those can be the same trap 3 times. So if the hitchhiker is resetting that trap and you keep going back to it, or it's in a traffic area and you have to hit it, it can be the same trap 3 times or 3 different traps. In the future, if there's other types of traps, maybe it would work there too. We'll talk about all those things. We'll cross all those bridges when we get to them. But the point being, now you get 3 shots with Bomb Squad, and that's that. So you can't just kind of basically continuously, reset and all of that. So those are our perk changes. I have like dry mouth. I feel like I'm going a mile a minute. Don't forget, we are going to get to questions at the end of this. The next thing, the big daddy that we got to talk about here that everybody's wondering about, and that I do have to go to the laptop for because it's just honestly
pages, right?
There's some. I'm going to try to trim this out, right? But I'm looking at a page of info on Danny.
I see it.
Instant study with Danny. This is an important one. Danny, instant study. You could, level Danny up to a point where then you could instant study something and tamper with the same thing that you studied. Now, instant study will disable the ability to tamper fuse box, car battery, valve, tank, or generator if you use it on those. Instant studying for other objects than the aforementioned is unchanged. So in other words, if you instant study the generator and then you go to tamper it, you won't be able to.
Okay.
You've burned your opportunity by using instant study on it. You can study other things, get that up, and then tamper the generator.
Yep.
But if you choose to study the generator, you will not get to use your tamper ability on the generator. Basically, it stops you from being able to go up, instant study the exit item like the battery, then tamper it, and then go straight out that door. Right? Basically, ensured that this only applies to players with the instant study upgrade. Again, this isn't for all studying. You can study it and tamper with it. It's only that instant study that you get through his metagame system, right? We've also made it so that Danny no longer has to inspect an exit object before he can tamper it. And we'll see prompts for both tamper or instant study. Prompts displayed as long as the tamper conditions are met. So, basically, oh my gosh. Bro, somebody loves me today. I'm getting pens and water and cheers, everybody.
It's because you're sick, People feeling some kind of way.
As soon as I'm healthy, everybody would go back to flipping me off.
But don't set it here because I'll end up going boop.
Oh, right on.
Keep it down there.
So, let me read that one back to you guys, because again, this stuff starts to get a little in the weeds. We've made it so that Danny no longer has to inspect an exit object before he can tamper it, and we'll see prompts for both. So if you walk up, you don't have to kind of inspect it. You can see the prompt and just, prompts are displayed as long as the tamper conditions are met. So fuse box is open and has a fuse in it, or the valve handle is already attached. That lets the player make the choice at that moment what to do. Tamper, instant study, gain the knowledge, and kind of, if you have instant study on, devoid the item, blah, blah. Input for the tamper interaction changed to a secondary input. It allows to show tamper and instant study at the same time.
Right.
So you don't have that one button press.
Yeah, right.
Button prompts for the 4 exit interactions, the generator, battery, fuse box, and valve tank, have been updated so that the players are told that instant study will disable the tampering in that match. So in other words, it surfaces it to you and basically the next big thing is knowledge gain values have been rebalanced so that they are more even across objects, but still have different values. So what does that mean? They were much closer together on the different objects. For instance, if you studied a lamp versus studying a TV or an exit, the margin between them was a lot closer. So you're getting a lot more knowledge gained from each one of those studies. we've now kind of spread them out a bit and rebalanced them across all of the objects. And the objects from lowest to highest values for knowledge gained is lamps, then toolboxes, then collection points for fuse or valve handles, radios, then TVs, and then the exits. So, again, that's something that we're going to need you guys to play, feel, and come back to us on, because we can continue tinkering with those values. TV should give more or less or whatever the case is, but we've adjusted those to make it a little, to slow Danny down a bit, I guess would be the best way to put it. We also had an animation issue with Danny that we've repaired. Basically, when he would go up to tamper something, he could break from the animation before the full minigame.
Oh, right.
And it looked like an instant tamper, like he just hit the button and took off. You'll now have to complete that little UI minigame, for lack of a better term. The animation has to fully play regardless of the parameters before you can move on from there.
Makes sense.
So there's no more walking past and just, and then it goes and you're gone. We also reduced the amount inspect speed is reduced at level 1 and 2 to 20 and 50% on the inspection kind of bonus in his metagame. So that's a lot to say. That's a lot to do. I don't want this to sound like a cop-out, but I feel like these changes you're going to have to see them and experience them.
Yeah.
And I think that with Danny, something that we can't really kind of understate, a lot of Danny has to be seen, experienced, and played with, really. Danny's a very particular character, and I know I've just got done rambling and a whole bunch, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that, the decision and in the design with Danny, and how, when we're bringing these characters out, because this is a common topic in the community right now. One of the questions in our list that the community team has pulled together has to do with QA and how we handle QA and how these things make it through. One of the things that I've been saying, and I'll just kind of kick it off with this, is when we design these characters, we're not looking to give you Leland with a different, slightly different frame, haircut, and clothes.
Yeah.
We're trying to make sure that we move gameplay in new places, right? Trying to make sure that we're shifting things, we're shaking things up, and we're moving gameplay into new areas. Not reinventing the wheel here, but making sure that we bring value with these different characters.
Yeah, they need to feel unique.
Right.
They look unique. Their background is unique. And when you play with them, it should feel unique. It shouldn't just feel like, oh, this is a carbon copy version of another character I've already played.
Right.
That's, in my opinion, not the best design that you can do. I think you always need to push and try to be innovative in all aspects of that. So when you're being creative around those sources, we go to great lengths for that. And we're constantly sitting around talking as a team to say, yeah, but what makes them unique? What makes them different? And if we can't answer that question, then we potentially shelf something and then come back to it. But we're always trying to push. And then sometimes, it gets to that point where, okay, we've let it out in the wild. We need to now sort of trim some of these things back, not moving towards like something that feels mediocre. It's just, it went too far and we need to back that off now.
I think that whenever you engage in that search for, something that's really going to shake things up and do something new, I think that that's like ripe territory for that to happen, because you're trying to do something that really kind of changes the way a match can play out. And those things have a potential to be to tip balance, and tipping balance is really the best way to say it, because it's a matter of a feather too far and you're over the edge and it's done.
Correct.
And so things happen, shit happens. We have to own the fact that there's some balancing to Danny that we're doing and we're working on. But I also think that for what it is worth, and I know to a lot of you, it's worth something. We're trying to make sure that the characters that we bring to the game are creative, new, interesting, unique, they're varied. They, unlock some new type of way to play the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. And I think that that's kind of a righteous endeavor. I think that's a good thing to be trying to do. It would be far simpler for us to say, let's dress Leland up as a young scruffy guy who likes rock music and kick him out there with some new perks.
Yeah. I mean, it's also why it takes so long to make these characters. I mean, we could very well just insert this character with a name, and then all we have to worry about is like just make sure that there's more perks thrown into the tree, and then let that be universally used by whomever or whatever. Like, you could concentrate on that and you could pump things out a lot faster, but it's not who we are as a company. It's not the type of things we want to make. We want to make things that we spend the time to learn everything we can about, well, really, who is this character? What is their backstory? What clothing do they wear? What music do they listen to? We have conversations here about that, like making playlists for what, you know, a Leland or a Connie would listen to from that era. Like we actually do that. And it also then bleeds into, well, he's this kind of person, so then how would he or she react in a situation? And in that, you start to glean from that, like, potential abilities, and then leaning into what the perks do to support that. That all takes time, and it's I think why when our characters do come out, like, they do genuinely feel unique, and I think that is one of the things that helps push asymmetric horror forward instead of just sort of moving sideways constantly, and what feels like each character, like, the last thing I want to do is just put something out that just feels just mayonnaise. Like, it's the same thing. It's just the reskinned this character, and then you're only concentrating on, like, a perk tree or something, and that doesn't feel like there's not a story being told around that. And when we were giving the unique privilege of taking this IP and turning it into a game, that sort of white glove approach is important to us. I understand it's not important to some people that play the game, and that's okay. But we're making the game, and it's the vision that we have for it, and we think that that's important. And there are people out there that it's also important to them, and we think that's really cool. But it is something that takes a lot of time and care, and we don't want to put out things that feel meh. We put everything into it.
And like I said, you know, again, does that sometimes lead to some things getting out there that it's like, well, you know, Danny's kind of tipping the scales now.
Yeah.
When used this way, whatever, you know, contingencies that tip the scale too far. Yeah, it does. It does sometimes lead to that, and you know, that's a thing that we're always going to balance for. A couple of streams back, Wes and I sat and talked about releasing a character that you purchase and that character still being susceptible to a balancing pass, which is always, let's be real here, a lot of developers try to shy away from the term nerf, and I don't because it's just I'm going to talk for a half an hour trying to make a nerf sound like a buff, and I'm not doing it. I don't have the energy for that. I think that there's better ways to just be real with you guys.
Yeah.
When we talk about a balancing pass, we're talking about a nerf or a buff. That's what that is. We're looking at that character going, are they the outlier, or is, you know, the outlier somewhere else?
Yep.
And honestly, every buff is a nerf depending on your viewpoint of it. So this whole struggling with words, I think, is silly. Anyway, balancing passes. So, you know, yeah, those characters are still going to be susceptible to balancing passes when they come out, paid DLC or not. So yeah, and on this one, Danny's getting it this time. Is this the end of the balancing passes that we might take it, Danny? No, not necessarily. It might be. It's really going to come down to feedback and data. I know a lot of you guys have really embraced the way we use data here at Gun, and I'm pretty proud of our team. You know, quick shout out to Raj, who's really been crushing everything telemetry for us and keeping us informed on how things are going. Yeah, we couple that with what we hear from you guys, because let's be honest, data about a character and player feeling both can be true.
Yeah.
The data can say something different, but both can be true. So we have to try to meld those two kind of points of information together in order to make our decisions. So Danny might see more, but really what it's going to come down to is we have him now with these changes at a point that we feel safe saying we should put him back out into the world and see how people react to this with this patch. So February 6th for the Danny mains. Make sure you play him. Check him out. Let us know what you think. Keep the conversations going. Keep the conversations civil as always. And our community team will take all that information and compile that together. But we talked a little bit. We kept bringing up new content things.
Oh, there's new content to talk about?
So the segue, smooth like gravel. Yeah, new content. We talked about how we put together new content. I'm going to run off a couple of things here.
Yeah.
And Wes is going to talk a little bit more about what we're doing, how we're doing it, when you can expect it. I'm going to leave the big piece of the good news here for...
There's probably two pieces on there.
Well, there's this.
That's pretty big, and that's pretty big.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's a...
yeah, there's still some goodies in there.
A calendar, too, thing.
Yeah, there's still some goodies in there.
You want to tell them a little bit about a time frame?
Yeah.
Before we even talk
Before
about
we
what's on
even
the
name
list,
one thing on the list, it's important to note that everything we're about to say, you will be able to experience in 90 days or less. So yeah, if you know how to do math and can read a calendar, you kind of got a basic idea of the time frame that you're going to be able to experience these things. So right off the rip, what's the first thing to discuss?
Execution packs.
And that's plural, execution packs, more than one. So you'll see new ways to execute victims, and they're pretty brutal. I've seen the footage, and they're pretty good. We turned it up a little bit more for this. We heard from players that they wanted more of that. I think some of the ones that launched were, I wouldn't use the term tame, but they weren't like over the top, and I would say we're moving that needle a little more towards brutal. We really just kind of let Ronnie off the hook and was like, let's get a little more dangerous in here.
I got a funny story about that. We were on the mocap volume, and I heard Ronnie giving direction to the actor who plays Johnny.
Yeah,
Dove is his name. Dove's a great guy. And,
yeah.
So Ronnie's giving direction, and Dove kept kind of looking at him quizzically, quizzically. And I got a little closer so I could hear. And Ronnie's just explaining this, which I won't elaborate on because, we want to keep it a surprise.
Spoil it, right?
Yeah. But he's explaining this absolutely brutal kill, and Dove's like, "We can do that." We're like, "That's it." And Ronnie's like, "We're gonna, we're gonna do it. We're gonna see how it goes."
Right.
So we pushed. I think we pushed the need. I think Ronnie really, particularly, pushed the needle to a place that's going to surprise you guys, and then some. So I'm excited about the execution packs.
Yep.
Weapon skins is another one.
Yeah. So ways that you can, sort of cause using cosmetics or whatnot, change some of the weapons that all the family members carry. Yeah, you'll see that coming in the next 90 days or so. I think it's really cool because it gives some uniqueness to some of the weapons that you're already sort of accustomed to seeing. While some of them may be smaller and sort of in hand, they still can be seen, and they still, I think, in my opinion, look pretty cool. So, stay tuned to socials for some up close images of those in the weeks that follow.
Now, there's one more here that there's an angle to this next one because we have cosmetics for the family and for the victims.
Correct. Yeah.
But there's a bit of process in there that I think you and I had talked about a little bit.
Oh, is there? Go ahead.
I mean, the idea with cosmetics and how we're going about making them and how we're pulling in, some talented folks to help us put together these cosmetics.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you actually speak more.
Oh, it's just, we're working with a studio named Art Bully, who we've worked with in the past. We worked with them on Friday the 13th. They made a lot of our Jasons. They're just a very talented studio. They've since grown substantially larger since when we worked with them on Friday. So shout out to Marcus and the team at Art Bully. But they've come in full force and have been helping us create all new outfits for everyone in the game. I think you guys are going to be excited to see what's coming, and they're moving fast, and there's going to be a lot of them. So be on the lookout for new goodies for both sides again in the next 90 days or less.
Yeah. Now, next up. Oh, this is a big one. Remember when we said free maps, etc.?
Yeah.
And everybody clowned on us?
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
I missed the clowning part.
Well,
I'm not surprised though.
Listen,
I get clowned on a lot. So
we struggled with the etc. because we weren't really sure how to illustrate.
They didn't
this.
like etc.
No, they were like, "What does that mean?"
Okay.
Of course, maps are free, and we were like, "Yeah, but there's." At the time, we knew about this next item, but we could not speak on it.
Yeah.
And so we went back and forth on. Do we even say there's anything more for free? We want to let you guys know there was more coming that would be free.
Yeah.
But we also didn't really know how to say it, so we said etc. And we got rightfully kind of joked around with a little bit. Museum mode,
yeah. So that's a new mode that's coming in the next 90 days. In this mode, it'll allow you to move around the family house. If you played the virtual cabin in Friday the 13th, then you kind of get what we're going for. It does have some sort of mild puzzles and things, but it's also some like behind the scenes of both the game and the film. There's some photo op areas where you can like actually use a camera and take pictures and have those saved, and you can share those out or do whatever. And then like some trivia and some information about, again, sort of behind the scenes things from the film, as well as behind the scenes things that we all experienced when we were making the game. So if you are into that type of content where you're able to, instead of putting on like your Blu-ray or DVD or whatever and watching the behind the scenes like that statically, it's like that, but you get to walk through it and be sort of a part of it. And then there's some things to sort of some puzzles to sort of solve and move through to unlock and see more and have more unique, interesting experiences. And so that'll be coming in the next 90 days. It's a free mode in Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Within, I want to specify something some folks from chat are struggling with, and I realize it's the way we're saying it. In 90 days, we don't mean that in 90 days from now we're going to have a DLC drop that's just everything.
Yeah.
Within the next 90 days.
Correct.
These things are spread throughout.
Right.
You know, I think that, do we know our shortest time frame before we get to the first thing? I don't think.
Well, I know there's nothing that's going to happen before the quality of life.
Quality of life, February 6th, then would be our first moment of this.
And then everything past that, that sort of time window is you're going to start seeing like a cadence of things dropping that we're talking about on this list.
Now, I wanted to note to you guys, obviously things like some cosmetics, maybe execution packs, weapon packs, those things are going to be spread throughout the course of the next 90 days. One thing that's important to note, which is also our next thing to talk about, we have a new victim and a new family member coming.
Oh, shit.
New victim and a new family member. Now, before we even start talking about this, I'm going to pass the mic to Wes, but before we even start talking about this, I need you guys to understand now, beforehand, these guys are going to be closer to that 90-day mark.
Yeah.
So whereas we talked about like some execution packs, some weapon skins, some cosmetics and things, and those will be throughout, obviously anywhere in between February 6th with quality of life and forward for within this 90-day window. The new family member and the new victim, that's going to be closer toward that, right around that 90-day mark. Yep. We want to make sure that you guys go into this knowing that.
Yeah, but you don't get this, in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to take some time. We're still sort of putting the finishing touches on all those pieces. I don't want to get into the details of those two things because I want you to see them. Yeah. I want to show them to you. I want you to see them, via a trailer and a reveal and even some behind the scenes of like who are the actual people we cast to portray those. All that stuff is, I think, going to be exciting to you, and I don't want to ruin that today by just giving you like just a tiny bit of that. I don't think that's fair, but I did want you to know that there's a new victim and a new family member, and you're going to get to play both in the next 90 days or less.
Now, what's important about that is we talk a lot about, again, like I said, this 90-day window and all of these different things that we're hitting on. They're going to be spread throughout, leading up to that. But I know what I wanted. I played as both of them yesterday. So yeah.
So they're still in completely unfinished states.
But one of them doesn't really have a face. But
yeah.
Well, they have a face.
Some temp material and things like that. But it's coming along, and it's exciting to see. Going to be some new faces. So yeah, that's exciting.
So now we're getting into more of the etc. too.
Oh, good.
More free things.
Oh,
I'm gonna let you kick off the first one there.
Mainly because, this one.
Yeah. What are we referring to that as?
Okay. There's a new look, a new outfit that we're making for Sissy, and it's known as Bride Sissy. So it'll be Sissy in a wedding gown, in a very twisted. You'll see. We'll be revealing some images of that pretty soon. So again, stay tuned to us. But there was something about that really drew in. I think Ronnie was really fascinated with that juxtaposition of this weird, twisted person. Donning the look of being in love, but yet maybe has never really tasted it, and this idea of evil and what seems like wearing something that felt more angelic because of the white and the wedding dress and that kind of thing. So yeah, you'll be seeing Bride Sissy coming, and it's free. So that'd be one that's I think you guys would be excited about, but probably more excited for the next thing that we actually have an image of. Matt, do you want to set this up before we throw to this image? So give Rob some time to get the image ready to get queued.
Yeah, woohoo! It's another. Actually, this is another etc. This is another free, and I think that's pretty cool because I think the community's gonna be really psyched about topless Johnny. I mean, shirtless Johnny.
Shirtless Johnny. So here's a look at shirtless Johnny. Again, this will be free. One thing that we are also talking about is like if there's future ways that you could maybe change a few things about like the shirt that's hanging out of his pocket, or we're having some discussions like that to like, can we do something else that's cool with that? But for right now, that hair is not final. This is like as we're putting things together on this model, and because obviously if you Johnny without a shirt on in the normal, there's no texture like that, and so we had to make all exactly the way we wanted him. And this is something that Ronnie has been working very hard on. Ronnie studies sort of the human physique a lot, and he wanted Johnny to have a look to him that was very intimidating. And that doesn't always just mean like massively huge, like beefcake guy. So there's a balance between like having the strength of someone who works on a farm versus a strength of someone who goes to a gym. And Johnny's not necessarily a person that goes to the gym. So he still needed to look the part and look like he could really handle himself. And I think Ronnie's done a fantastic job of giving the art direction to the 3D modelers to get Johnny in a place that we knew we always wanted him. Actually, this is just an interesting side note in that when Ronnie originally, like over a year ago, was writing up what this character, actually it was more like 2 years ago, I think, when he was writing up the bio of like Johnny, he had him without a shirt. And when we were talking about through those things, we're like, well, but customization options and things like, let's put him on put a shirt on him and see what he looks like. And then we had him with a shirt and we're like, okay, we'll stick with that. But the original like written bio of him was he was going to look like this. So it was nice for Ronnie to be able to go back to old notes. And it was nice to know that the community was also interested in seeing a killer that, didn't have a shirt on, which kind of makes sense in Texas. It's hot and, he's doing a lot of manual labor. And so it's not a stretch to think that he would be that way. And again, the original bio that was written on him had him like this. So that's going to be coming to Texas Chain Saw Massacre in the next 90 days or less, and it is free. What's next on the docket?
We got one more
thing, huh?
And I think that means that we got to talk about the map.
Oh, there's a map. There's a new map.
Whoa, Rob
ladies
was
and
just
gentlemen,
like, boom, right
jumping
into it.
right into the mill.
This is this is a screenshot. Basically still in development. Visuals not final.
Yeah, very much still in. We haven't done our beauty pass and things like that yet on this, but the reason why we wanted to show you this is just to give you an idea of how different this is compared to every other map we have in the game. This game has far more verticality than you've experienced yet in Texas Chain Saw Massacre. There's actually 4 playable levels of verticality in this, from basement, mid-floor, second floor, third floor, and then you also have a dry creek bed that once you get down in that, like the depth of that versus the height of this, of the tippy top playable space, is pretty significant. It's nothing like you've played so far, which creates some unique gameplay that we haven't seen either, where getting trapped into that mill and moving vertically instead of horizontally throughout the game space, it does create some unique gameplay that we haven't seen yet. And I think we saw a tiny taste of that with Nancy's house, with it having a bit more verticality in that it was almost like that was the testing ground for the idea of, does the Texas Chain Saw Massacre design work when you start moving up instead of out? Yeah. And that little test with Nancy's house said, yes, it absolutely works, and it works really well. So now let's turn the volume on that. and gives players a map that has far more verticality in it. I mean, Matt, you've spent some time kicking the tires on this map. Do you have something you want to add to that?
One of the things I wanted to bring up, I think it was interesting how you brought up Nancy's house, because Nancy's house has the verticality not only of the ramped driveway,
Right.
which you can see in elements of this map in
Yes.
the dry bed in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also the ladders and the porches in the back of Nancy's house, which you can see, you end up seeing here, because there's, catwalks and things like that that connect different areas, but you have those lower sections. So being a Cook player and being up a bit and being able to, or really any family member being up a bit and being able
line
to,
of sight is different with this.
right,
Than,
right.
Mm-hmm.
That line of sight works vertically versus having to count on long distances. So it definitely changes the way you play. It changes the way you evade the family, and it changes the way you hunt on the family side.
Yeah.
It's also just a really cool map.
Yeah, and it also, like, there's some interesting more points of interest, I think, on this in terms of unique assets that you'll find in the map that make for call-outs much more efficiently than you might have on, say, like Slaughterhouse, for example. It's a little harder to do call-outs on that you'll find this to be a little bit more it's a little easier to be able to say, hey, he's over by the this or they're over by the that, because you have far more points of interest on that. Another thing to point out is this is an abandoned sawmill. So when we say mill, we're talking about a sawmill, like where logging work would take place. But it's abandoned, which is why it's all in bad shape and disrepair, and you can see the gaps in that building in the woodwork is rotting and sort of falling away. It creates unique lighting inside that building, which we will be in the near future be putting out images of what it looks like inside as well. So be on the lookout for that. But the point here was just to show you guys a quick screenshot to see that we're moving up, not out, when it comes to like the direction of unique gameplay. Instead of just doing a rinse repeat of a similar map or making it feel like you're playing in the same arena every single time, we're just moving exits or something. We don't ever do that. We always take this as everything needs to look and feel unique when you set and play it. And that's from character design to level design, which again reinforces the thing I've been talking about is this stuff takes time. I'm not going to rush to put something out that feels, again, very mayonnaise. It's not, I don't ever want to do that, because what's the point of that? I would rather put out things that when you touch it and play it, you're like, holy shit, this feels different. That's always our goal.
And on that note, while we do have time left to get mill ready, obviously there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
There are some elements of it that I want to note. There's some interesting well usage.
Oh.
And I'm not going to go any further than that, because I want to leave some surprises, but there's some really cool well usage.
Yeah.
And we're finding that through the verticality, because we have those multiple floors to play with. And window jumping. We know everybody's a big fan of window jumping. There's some interesting window jumping too.
Indeed.
There's also a whole section of the map that I think is going to be fans are really going to love. And again, it's going to change. We're going to see some of those changes, and hopefully now, this being the first like cork out of the bottle moment. Hopefully now, maybe the next time you see the mill, it'll be a slightly more detailed teaser of it.
Yeah.
But again, we're still working through those bits. We're letting it marinate the right way, and we're confident in what you guys will get out the other side. And the mill, of course, like all of the maps in Texas Chain Saw Massacre, will be free. That way, we're not, splitting up the player base in any kind of way. That does it for both patch preview and new content. Now we have a couple of topics from the community that I want to cover. Whew, that was like me trying to talk myself into a sick man's second wind here. So. We had a couple of questions about Leatherface stall, the chainsaw stall. Well, we've had a lot of questions about the chainsaw stall.
Yeah.
Now, we've had some conversations with you guys about this. There were a couple of things going on, a couple of things that either came up through the patching process or were there and then uncovered. Two things I want to touch on. Number one, we're not in the business of stealth nerfs. We don't do that. That does no good for us and no good for you guys. We, every game dev really realizes that the people playing the game uncover everything in that game at a rate of speed that will twist your mind. There's just, hundreds of thousands of you guys playing this game for God knows how many hours a week. So the concept of trying to pass something over on a stealth nerf is a silly thing. We don't do that. So when you come across something in game that you're going, oh, that's a stealth nerf, please do send that in as a ticket to us. Send that into support.txchainsawgame.com. Send it to the community team on Reddit. Give us all the details on it. Please don't assume that we know because we stealth nerfed it, because a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times something gets uncovered in a patch that we did not know was an issue, and now we have to kind of address that. So there's some things going on with Leatherface. We took care of the UI thing. We're still sniffing into some of the situations with the chainsaw stalling. A couple of you have come forth with some really interesting details on it, but we need more of that, and we need you guys to try to make sure that you're providing video and as much context and all of that you can. And that's about all I have on that topic at the time. We touched on QA and some of the things that go on with new characters and things with Danny. I feel like that's pretty well covered. Next up, Sissy and Sunny buff rework being looked into. We're looking at both. Now, rework is a tricky term.
Yeah.
A lot of times, Wes, the concept of a rework, I mean, it feels so baby in the bathwater.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're starting over, and that's not.
Right.
I don't think either one of those characters necessarily need that. Do they need another look? Probably so.
Yeah. And Sunny's is happening.
Yeah.
So it's very early stages, but Sunny's is happening. Looking at little things. I know, and I've shared this publicly a bit. Base attributes are being looked at for Sunny. We want to try and see where we can tweak in there to give him a little bit more of that edge and personality.
Yep.
But in my mind, a rework is like throwing out the ability and or a new ability. I feel like a rework is that's the last thing you go to, and I don't think that either of these characters are there. I think that Sissy, the work has not started on yet. Maybe there's some minor investigations going on there, but by all means, hit us with the feedback. Sunny is definitely. He's early stages of being looked at. Obviously not in time for the February 6th patch, but we're aware and working on that. Tweaks to noise following victims in the works. Yes, actually. Very few, though. Particularly doors.
That's just being trimmed back a little, like it's not as long. Yeah.
Right. When you're in a chase, this was the situation we're hearing from you guys. Obviously, if there's more pain points with the victim noise following you, let us know and we can continue to look at it. But victims were being chased through doorways, and the door, they're thus opening or closing the door in a hurry.
But it's a viable tactic. Like
Yes.
if you are a victim and you're running from family, you're trying to break line of sight. So, if the door, you throw the door open, you slam it behind you, and then now you have a few seconds here to try to break line of sight because they've still got to come through the door. You're now invisible to them because there's a door there, right? And you want to break right and try to hide somewhere. Well, the noise thing basically negates your ability to do that right now. And so the discussion that's been having in design is that time from making the noise to now you sort of no longer being on the ping radar or whatever you want to call that, where the family member can still follow you. Let's reduce that a little bit and see if that gives players enough time to still use a door as an effective way to break line of sight and then truly get away. Or how much does that need to be adjusted? So I think we're making those discussions and adjustments right now. I'm not sure when that's slated for you guys to be able to touch that, but when it does come out, definitely want to hear back. Was it enough? Does that feel better now? I know we have our own opinions internally, but as Matt was alluding to, when you have the hundreds of thousands of variables of how everyone plays the game in the wild, it allows us to see a fuller picture of when we made that adjustment, what happened. So, I think that's what you're alluding to, correct? Yep. Okay.
Next one up is Wes mentioned in a prior live stream raising the level 99 cap and giving more things for players to grind for it. Is that still in the works?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
It's still happening. We are both in raising that level as well as what are awards and things that you're gonna get sprinkled into that. All those things are currently happening. So yeah, I don't have a timeline on that yet, but it's happening for sure.
And the last one that we've from this little list, I want to caveat here. We didn't go too crazy with this list. This is pulled from the community team, and these were their top 5 that we wanted to get to. Mainly, not because we don't want to answer more questions from you guys, but we want to get into the actual chat from this stream rather than just this. So, again, but the last one that I have on this list is a little bit of not a tricky one, but it's definitely a frustrating one. What's being done to combat lobby dodging and lobby wait times? Is lobby dodging penalties still a possibility? I'll put it this way. I think that anything is a possibility if it's going to help us corral this lobby dodging situation, but we're very against the idea of penalties. We've said that plenty of times.
Yeah.
We hate the idea of having to penalize players in order to, get this under control, and we're trying to make sure that we figure out creative ways to get around that. But I mean, ultimately, there comes a certain point, not that we're there now, but there comes a certain point where it's either folks stop leaving lobbies or we have to start motivating them not to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And transversely, that could also be, do you incentivize for always sort of sticking around? Like you're not the one that's backing out all the time.
Right.
If you do that consecutively, like is there something you can kind of get? So yeah, there's a lot of discussions that's being had to try to correct that behavior, some on the negative side and some on the positive side. And we'll get there when we get there and find I think a good idea that's going to work for it. But it is frustrating. I understand the frustration that you just want to sit down and play the game, and there's people that are, I don't want to be this person, so they just keep leaving, and that's frustrating. I get it. So we're working on it.
There you go. Now, please hide the scoreboard. Oh. I'm sorry. I caught something weird, and I thought it was about the stream. I thought they were talking about the stream. They're talking about the lobby. We'll actually get to that in a sec.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a couple questions from chat now. We're going to try to tackle some of this.
There's probably been a lot of repeating questions since we've started, so now's the time to repeat them again. So
some folks are tagging us in them, which is great because I'm old and I can't see, so I appreciate it. Let's see. Will we see any DLC map variants like Daytime Family House? Well, Family House has 2 variants. Usually the way we handle that is we try to pick a time of day that suits the map really well, like dusk and dark and things like that. And those aren't arbitrary. Rob, Ronnie, everybody basically, goes over different possibilities, and some ones just don't work. Certain ones, don't work out. Slaughterhouse in the pitch black dark of night does not work well. So usually what we try to do is that, and the ones that you have 2 versions for each map that's out now. Those are the 2 that we felt play the best. Maybe you'll see them in the future with other maps, but again, going back to, because you mentioned Family House by name here, going back toward Family House and adding in a 3rd, unlikely unless we come across something that really makes the most sense. Can we get some fixes on Cook's locks not visible on the white fence in Nancy's and the blue slaughter sliding door? It's not visible on those? That sounds like something that has to be sent through support. If you haven't already, please make a ticket. And in case you've already let the community team know and you guys have had some long conversation about it that I don't know about, please don't attack me. I just don't know. And I'm sure those...
I'd never heard of either one of those issues either, but I'm not surprised that especially the new map, that there's some outlier. There's some weird thing about an interaction of an asset being placed, either falling into the geometry of the gate itself, because the gate itself can move.
Yeah.
So applying something that is additive to a thing that can move, sometimes the geometry supersedes. So it's there, but it's like buried in it. So I'm not surprised that that's a thing, but please do submit tickets. And the best thing to do is if you have a clip of it happening, like if you walked up as Cook and you put something on and then it disappeared, just seeing the visual of that helps all of our engineers jump on it immediately and get a fix for it, more so than us just relaying a tweet or something where we're like, somebody said locks are disappearing, and they're like, what do you mean? It's like, so the more, and I'm not trying to ask you guys to be like a part of the team or so to speak, but there are so many variables that go into this and so many individual little edge cases, or sometimes not edge cases. Sometimes it's like every time this is a bug that can be replicated. The team is always working on things that we've already been able to replicate, and we're working on that fix, and then someone finds another thing. So the more detail we have on it, the faster we can get that thing replicated and potentially into a patch faster than if we had to wait until, we got to get these 10 things into this patch and then we'll take a look at that. It's like, well, if we already have the edge case proven via video or otherwise, it speeds that stuff up. And so it again, I'm not trying to say like you guys need to like work for free or some shit like that from us. It's not that. It's if you want these things happening as fast as humanly possible, the more details we can get from it, the quicker we can fix the problem. So please do, if you see those things, please do submit.
And the other thing I was going to say is there's never a situation where you submit a ticket and we go, get out of here. We already know.
Right.
So you can always send in a ticket about a thing.
Yep.
And again, video is great, but even if it's just what you typed there, it still counts. It still helps. So please do make sure you guys are using the support channels. Scout Nerf. Scout is one of the perks we're looking into. I'm not sure that's any Scout changes made it in for this update with these perk changes, but Scout is definitely one of the perks we're looking into. There's no way a perk ends up on like 98% of people's builds and is not a perk that we're going to look into.
Yeah.
So here's a good thing for us, an exercise for us to go through. When every one of your friends uses the same one perk, know that we're probably looking at that perk because something's probably going on there.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, Scout is one that we're looking into. No time frame on that just yet. Details as soon as we're ironed out on them. Are we getting a Bloody Nancy skin? We would love to do a Bloody Nancy skin. We would love to do bloody skins for all the family. We don't know in terms of where or what when that will happen.
I mean, I can say that I'm focusing on new clothing options for everybody right now. Right. It doesn't mean that bloody is off the table. It's just I'm trying to get some new things in the hands of people so that they can express themselves and play the game. And it actually can create a more visual variety into the game when you start seeing new and different outfits. Where blood is still cool, and I think that we should have it in there. I have new outfits as a priority over that. So it's not a no. Like, yeah, you're gonna see that in the future. It's just that's not where my focus is right now.
Has the perfect family kill unlockable been looked into? Yes, actually for quality of life too. This update that we're talking about right now, the February 6th one, status of that in the upcoming patch notes.
Yep.
In-game reporting updates, again, high priority for us. Something that we are trying to get into the game at the earliest possible convenience. But as far as where that is, you're gonna have to wait for the full patch notes to see if we can wrangle that one in time. Also, let's see here. Gotta look for more. You guys gotta keep tagging us because again, old man. You ever thought about making a battle pass? We have, but it's not. We would rather figure out ways to create opportunities for our players to unlock things. We've talked actually in one of the previous streams about an in-game currency where you guys could potentially unlock things. Something along those lines, but not really a full battle pass. No, it doesn't seem to fit our game. Leland concussive hit ability. Description feels really weak for people to understand it. Neither do I. I think what you're saying is his shoulder barge ability, the description, you're not understanding it? I'm sorry. If you can clarify, I'd love to answer that for you. Bugged unlockable with perfect family game in Quality of Life 2. This update, we're working on that one as well, and hopefully the February 6th update will have it. Barring something going wrong. Why is Grandma not in Grandpa's room in the family house? She went for a little walk. That's all. Outside getting.
Every time someone's asked me that question, like when we take a picture or somewhere in a building, and they're like, "What? Where?" I'm like, "Who you think took the picture?" Like every time we show the picture, but like TBD.
Yeah. What I saw here, what happened to Maria? And that's a good opportunity for me to say pedalsgame.com, I think was the URL for that there.
Yeah, play pedals. Some interesting lore in that.
Will there be a Sunny buff? We covered that. We're looking into it already. We're in like the baby steps beginning of that. And then we've got, we let multiple people play the same victim instead of victim locking. No, we don't want to have any situation where there's 4 Connies running around.
No.
Or 4 Lelands, for that matter. Why doesn't Johnny have any voice lines for Nancy? It's his mother. Voice lines for Johnny and Nancy. I believe his voice lines for Nancy are in there but need to be tweaked or reconnected, but it's a bug that we're looking into.
Yeah, I don't think they were triggering. They were recorded. I don't think they were triggering.
Yeah, that's the wording I wasn't finding, Crossplay party up, crossplay with older gens. Crossplay with older gens, probably not. Crossplay party up, I don't know what you mean. The real way to encourage stealth is to hard punish rushing. So how will you go about that? Again, here at Gun, we're trying to not take the route of punishment and more so motivation to do the other. So you guys, if you've been paying attention to our last few patches, we've had a lot of changes go in that kind of motivate stealth play more. And we're confident that we've got some more meat on that bone to go to work toward before we go worrying about punishing the ulterior. Let's see here. 8th person spectate mode for custom games, please. Custom games are something that we're looking into, but it's a down the road thing. Right now, listen, I don't think anything I'm saying is too controversial when I say this, but right now we've got these things that we really want to kind of tackle first and foremost. And not that custom games aren't important, but
well, I do want to put out, I guess, a bit of a call to action to the community. And I don't know if this is something that maybe Sid and Andy sort of start with, but it could happen on our Reddit. But asking a question of if there were custom private matches put into the game, what things would you like to turn on and off? Like the game rules, so to speak. If you ever played Friday the 13th custom private matches, there was a lot of things you could turn on and off, and people seem to really enjoy that. But those aren't necessarily one-to-one, obviously, for this game. So it's thinking about if you could manipulate some rules of a game to make something feel, way more victim-friendly or way more family-friendly or just et cetera, whatever, however you want to look at that in ways of like, when I'm playing with the homies, I wish I could do this, turn this thing on or this thing off. We need probably a Reddit post that's like, come give us your ideas of what you think. Excuse me. And then we'll discuss here internally as well with our own short wish list of what we wanted to have, and start working on putting that together. I think it's a good use of hearing from you guys of what you would want to have. And so it's not just what we all think here at Gun. That's like, this is what the best thing to be. Cause I know there's probably gonna be some weird ideas that come through there. I definitely would not entertain anything that's like push button for all nude mode. That's not going to happen in the game. I know some of you would really, really like that. It's just not. It's not the vision of what we're doing here.
Someone actually brought something up that ties back into that comment where we were talking about a problem with the hooking up of the Leland, or not Leland, the Johnny lines, right? Somebody said, why does Danny scream like Leland in a cutscene? Again, same kind of a thing. Those voice lines are hooked up and triggered off of different situations, and
it's pulling the wrong one.
It's pulling the wrong one out. We had this situation. We've had this. Every game has had this situation happen. Yeah. So appreciate the heads up about it. That's the first I'm hearing about it. Maybe let support know and the community team know, one or the other, however you want to go about
when Danny is yelling, it's pulling Leland's yell? Is that what they're saying? Okay. Yeah.
But only in this one situation, so. Can you give Sissy poison claws? Actually, Sissy accidentally had poison claws when the game launched, and it was a bug that was pretty rough on people. So,
yeah.
Who's the chicken next to you?
Oh, come on! Does it squeak anymore? Is
the
battery dead?
No, there we go. That's our friend Nugget. Nugget is the chicken from the video game. It's become a little bit of a community favorite.
Yeah,
that's our stream room.
He's
Nugget.
The true G.
When is lobby timer going to be removed? Well. I believe that's in quality of life too.
Yeah.
I believe that's in this update. Yeah. Lobby timer is going to be removed in this update. We, obviously we're still going to want to hear you guys' feedback on how things are going with that. And I want to hem this in, and this is a good point to stop with. I want to hem this in with a huge caveat here. We're not saying this is the magic bullet to any one issue that you guys are facing right now in terms of lobbies. This is one thing that we're doing, and we want to see the impact of it, see how that helps. We're going to continue monitoring and hopefully continue to make advancements on this topic. But I believe the lobby timer disappears with this update. Let us know. I'm sure you will anyhow. But let us know how that feels and how that's looking to you guys. And we're going to continue hammering on it.
Yep.
One thing that I did want to kind of touch on. There's been a lot of talk about this bug, and we keep saying we're investigating, and community keeps saying, I don't get it, why isn't this more of a priority? Lobbies and matchmaking is, if game dev is witchcraft, lobbies and matchmaking is the ultimate Grand Wizard witchcraft kind of shit. The team has been investigating, and those investigations do take time.
Yeah.
That's not me saying, oh, it's too hard. It's me saying it's going to take time, and we have to let the smart people, the engineers, the crazy smart people we're talking here, dig their way through that and get that figured out. It's not a matter of us not giving it a high enough priority. Believe me, we hear you guys loud and clear on it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of this isn't something we could do with a hammer and a nail in a weekend. This is something that some folks have to really dig into and really truly actually, we say the term investigate a lot in terms of bugs. This really truly is that.
I mean, I will just like straight flat out, here's what I see that's happening is some of it is player behavior of like someone comes in and they leave. And that's a problem, and that's a discussion that we're having here, as a thing trying to solve. But then it's that spot's not being refilled. Someone leaves, they didn't want to play as that family member or whatever it is, and that family member slot just sits empty until the lobby just goes to zero, dumps everyone. That's not good game. That's not good gameplay. That's not what the game should be doing. So there's something breaking in the logic, and that could be from matchmake. It could be from it could be happening more on one platform than the other. It could be a bug that's associated with how crossplay works, to like trying to pull someone in from a different place. It could be regional. There's a lot of different variables as to why that could be a thing. And we're putting telemetry into every single facet of that to catch every single time that something goes wrong, so that it spits out data so that we go, there's where the problem, there's where it's breaking. It's not pulling people at this moment, and we can get that fix to occur. I wish it was something that was binary, where we just go, oh, you just didn't turn the switch on, done, like easy. It's not. And it's been something I've been pushing and keeping my eye on since launch, because we all have our own our own areas of things that are pain points for us, each head that works at gun, and et cetera. And that's been a big one for me personally, is like, we have to fix this. And we're throwing everything we can at trying to solve it. And some of that just means we need more telemetry triggers to put into the game to watch when that moment happens, give us data as to why it's happening. Because we can't just lift the hood and go, oh, it's the alternator. It doesn't work like that. We have to follow the path of why it didn't fill that spot back in. So some of it is a symptom, and some of it is the actual illness. And when you have players that are backing out of the game, it's like pouring gas on a potential issue that we're still trying to solve as well. So we have a 2-in-1 problem, and we're hitting both of those problems simultaneously. I wish I could give you a date as to like, oh, and we'll have it fixed at this point. It doesn't. It's not that clear cut, especially when some of it is a player behavior side of it. We have our own ideas and our own ways that we think we can tackle those. The one that's like not filling that spot right, which again, for all the reasons and 10,000 others I didn't name, or nor am I smart enough to even name them. That's the one it's very difficult to pin that down. But I basically have an APB out with every smart person I know that's not even like affiliated with Gun or Sumo, to just go, have you seen this? Like, how can you help us with this? Again, I'm trying to exhaust all efforts to get that buttoned up as fast as we can.
There you go. I don't have anything to add to that. That was a great answer. Yeah, basically, thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. There's Muerto Times. It's going to get posted to socials, maybe even right now. Community teams out there, they're probably whipping away at that now. So Muerto Times coming today. Like I said, we'll be getting the patch notes as soon as we can. We're targeting that February 6th date. With a February 6th date, that would put us patch notes probably the Thursday prior or the Monday right before. Continue the conversations with us on our Reddit and all of our socials. Our community team is all well-versed in all of this and can answer all of your questions, because I'm sure you got a few. I mean, on Danny alone, there's a lot going on there. Exciting stuff with the new content. Again,
Where can they go if there was to, like, a list of the things we just discussed? Is that going to be somewhere?
Yes, actually, Wes, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Head over to the community hub. Sid, the killer with the most out there, is working on a community hub article to recap this entire live stream, talk about things, and yeah.
And if you're a YouTuber, hey, I hope you stream this, and you can cut it up and make small edits and talk to your community about it. And maybe they can come back to us and talk to us too about what they learned when you guys all watched it together. We think those videos are awesome, so please keep making them.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to go finish being sick.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thanks
for
everybody.
watching. Take care.